Hey guys, specifically anxious people. Today I want to talk about 6 beliefs that are really killing your relationship. So, beliefs are a really powerful thing that you can't underestimate because not only do they shape the perception of your reality, they also shape the outcome. So, how your relationships unfold. For example, if you believe that you are unworthy of love, you will actually actively reject people that are loving towards you and will subconsciously select and feel drawn to partners that hold the same belief about you, that you are not worthy of good treatment and love. And that's what will feel like home to you, is what will feel familiar. Not to say you are actively and consciously seeking out a bad relationship, but as long as you hold this belief of being unworthy of love, you will find a match for it. This, of course, is a self defeating belief. Conversely, if you believe you are worthy of love, you will have boundaries for people that treat you badly, and you will actively seek out people that are loving and are kind and value you for who you are. This, of course, is an empowering belief. So it's really important to take inventory of your beliefs, to not let them just subconsciously run your life because they have a huge impact and essentially determine the outcome of your relationships and the quality of your life. Hi there, I'm Gabriel, a former avoidant and co founder of the Simply Together website, where my wife and I help you fix your attachment issues and breakups. Excuse my cold, by the way, I'm still recovering. Now, in today's video, I want to talk about beliefs that I mostly see with my coaching clients that are anxiously attached, often locked in a dynamic with an avoidant. So my suggestion for this video as we go through it and cover the various self-defeating beliefs is to write down the ones that resonate with you so that you can really actively start putting them into question. We're first going to start with the beliefs that are primarily focused on your partner, and then we'll move on to the ones that are focused on yourself. So belief number 1 is if I can only find Mr. or Mrs. Right, I can be perfectly safe and happy and feel fulfilled in my relationship. This is the belief that if you find the right person, everything will just magically fall into place. It's an appealing fantasy that is often promoted in pop culture and movies and obviously sells really well. But Carolina and I have noticed that most romantic films or novels primarily really just deal with the initial courting stages and very rarely with the reality of long-term relationships. And we think it's because it sells easier, but it's also because people have a hard time portraying the reality of long-term relationships in a way that can be packaged as entertainment value, I guess. But it's such an important part of our lives that I feel like isn't discussed anywhere near enough because the courting stages of a relationship are the shortest. It's maybe 3 to 6 months. Then you are dealing with the reality of a relationship, which can go from a few years to lifelong. In fact, I can highly recommend the movie Marriage Story with Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson that deals with their long-term marriage and the complexity of it, the patterns they're locked in, and despite their best efforts, wanting to come each other's ways at times, just keep being locked in the same dynamic. So this is an example of a film that I think portrayed the reality of relationships in a rather honest manner. So this idea that if it's true love, it'll just work, and if it's not, it won't, is unfortunately a little simplified. Because there are people you might match with that are overall good for you, and in some ways not good for you, and then there are others that are definitely just not good for you, where you should just move on. But holding this belief that if you find Mr. or Mrs. Right, everything will just magically fall into place results in repeated heartbreak and devastation. I have seen so many clients and students of ours that have these short bursts of 1 to maybe 6 month relationships where they are in the honeymoon phase, where everything seems so wonderful and so perfect. And then reality inevitably settles in, and the person they're with is revealed to not be Prince Charming or the perfect princess, but rather a human being with flaws and problems. And in someone's refusal to accept this other aspect of the person, the relationship inevitably falls apart. And often these people are then locked in chasing this fantasy until the person just blocks them and says, I'm not doing this anymore. And then they cycle and they find the next perfect Mr. or Mrs. Right and repeat the whole fantasy and devastation again. So, for these reasons and more, it's really important to put this narrative into question. There is no one perfect person that will magically fix everything for you, unfortunately. It's best to go in slow and take your time to really evaluate the person that you're dating or seeing and wait for their inevitable flaws to surface. And then see if you can compromise and communicate and navigate and negotiate to grow together. This is the reality of any relationship. Belief number 2. If you just did what I told you, none of this would be a problem. The belief that your partner is the problem. So this involves endlessly focusing on and insisting on all of their issues. They've got an avoidant attachment style. They're bipolar. They have ADHD. They have an anxiety disorder. Maybe they're even borderline. You just have a whole list of all of their mental disorders and problems. And if it's not a list of their mental disorders, it can be a list of everything they are doing wrong all the time. In fact, long ago, I was in a relationship where I was under the scrutinizing eyes of everything I was doing wrong and everything that was wrong with me. And that just led to endless breakdowns and conflicts over the most minute things, and ultimately a growing rift and a relationship that didn't work out. I also have some unfortunate experiences with clients that are borderline obsessed with everything their partner is getting wrong and all the mental disorders they have. They might label them avoidant, dishonest, unreliable. The focus is simply endlessly on their partner's shortcomings and wrongdoings. Now, what this belief results in is an extremely toxic trap that cycles, where a partner will increasingly distance themselves and eventually say that they can't make you happy, they're not good enough for you, they're not ready for a relationship, and ultimately leave. So the reality is it's quite easy to get locked in this belief that your partner is the problem. But the truth is that there is no one single perfect person. Everybody has flaws. You do, your partner does, I do, my wife does. And it's about shifting our attitude towards this idea of one person being wrong and the other right to, okay, we both have issues in different areas. How can we work as a team? How can we work together to overcome these? This is the approach and the attitude that will actually get you a lot more of the love and the comfort and security you desire from your partner. Belief number 3. I have done the work and dealt with my issues, so I am clear of any wrongdoing. The belief that going to therapy, couples counseling, reading personal growth books automatically heals you. I'm actually a bit guilty of this myself, but the reality is doing any work on yourself, no matter how long or profound it might be, doesn't automatically fix anything. In fact, I see people kind of checking it as a box. Going to therapy is the thing to do now, so I do it. And I get my weekly session where I talk things through, my therapist listens, and somehow I'm better then. Ignoring the fact that it has far more to do with, yes, building awareness of certain issues, but taking accountability, responsibility, and changing. That's the hard part. As much as we would like to, we cannot outsource personal growth. It is a very personal thing that we have to take into our own hands. I had a client whose partner was a real personal growth junkie. He just read all the books there were, was in therapy since 20 years, and knew all the terminology and the labels for mental disorders, for attachment styles, conflict styles, you name it. He could recite, he could talk about it. And that gave him, in her eyes, a lot of credibility, trust, and authority. But the problem was he actually thought himself on top and, knowingly or not, abused that power and made her question herself by throwing around terminology and labels. So the belief that going to therapy, doing counseling, reading books, attending workshops, seminars, whatever it might be, somehow automatically heals or fixes you results in a superiority complex that makes you relate to your partner downwards and has similar ripple effects as the previous beliefs we talked about. Now, if you can relate to this belief, my message to you is it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not be perfect, to lean into the discomfort of being vulnerable. And that no matter how many books we read or workshops we attend or hours of therapy we put in, there will always be more to learn and grow on. It's far more productive in a relationship to be down to earth and use all of this knowledge and these tools as a benefit to both of you, but not as an advantage over them. All of this stuff is actually something we heavily emphasize in our attachment avoidant program because we've seen this imbalance happen so often. And that also includes people taking too much responsibility for their partner. So if you'd like some help having a healthier attitude and a framework that gives you more of that balanced approach where you are problem solving together and not relating to your partner as a problem that needs to be fixed, but rather thinking as a team and working on both sides to achieve the desired outcome of having a happy, healthy relationship, then be sure to check out our attachment avoidant program. I'll link it in the description. So now we covered the beliefs centered and focused around your partner. And I want to talk about the beliefs that I often see my anxious coaching clients have that are more focused on themselves. Belief number 5, my partner is quick to discard me, so I mustn't mean anything to them. The belief that you have no value to your partner. I've found that this self-defeating belief is often found amongst the sweetest, kindest, most good-hearted people I've had the pleasure of working with. And they are often in long-term relationships where their partner is still very dismissive, quick to discard them, maybe even abandon them, trapped in a make-up breakup cycle. And what this treatment reinforces is this belief that they have no value, that their often avoidant partner is not attached to them. But holding this belief that you mean nothing to your partner, that you have no value to them, often just reinforces this treatment of being walked all over, of being taken for granted and discarded at a whim, where your partner might even come and go as they please. And the reality is, you have a lot of value to your partner. You just don't know it. And therein lies part of the problem. You yourself need to understand and learn your own value in order for your partner to see it. So take the time to maybe even write out what you bring to the table, all the qualities, all the warmth, the kindness, the patience, whatever it is that you bring to your relationship, write it out, take inventory, and build yourself up. Understand that what you provide is something rare and something that your partner deeply values, but might be afraid to openly admit they do. But the more you learn your own value, the more they will acknowledge what you're bringing to the table, and the more they will appreciate you. Self-defeating belief number 6. I didn't manage to save them from themselves, and therefore I have failed them and should feel bad. The belief that you've somehow failed to rescue your partner. This is where you try really hard and pay no matter what price to make the relationship work. I was personally like this in my first relationship too. And what it leads to and did for me as well was tolerating a lot of abuse where there should have been clear boundaries in place early on. People that have this belief often have an entrenched sense of responsibility that is far overreaching any that they should actually have. So they might feel not just responsible for their partner, but also for their friends, their parents, their families, sometimes even the world. It's like they're carrying the burden of everybody's problems on their shoulders. And they feel like until I've made everybody happy, until everybody is finally satisfied and content, I can't address my own needs, right? I'm somehow second in line and deprioritized. And so this belief results in an endless chase of trying to rescue and save their partner and sometimes beyond that is never ending. With this belief in place, you will never get to your own needs because your partner's needs won't suddenly stop. They will also evolve and continue. And sometimes with coaching clients, I see this taken to an extreme where even if their partner broke up with them, they still feel responsible for them and like they've failed them and hope that they're okay and that they don't feel like they gave up on them and that they're too broken to be loved. So there's a total imbalance between their partner's needs and their own. And what you really need to do here is understand that you are not responsible for your partner's happiness. In fact, you cannot make them happy. You can support all of that, but there needs to be a balanced investment in your own well being and theirs. Sure, there might be times where you are putting more attention on them, and other times where there'll be more attention on you if you're going through a difficult time or vice versa. But if the focus is primarily on your partner and your needs are not being addressed equally, that's not a healthy balance. You need to put that belief that you are somehow responsible for them and that you've failed them into question. So these are the self-defeating beliefs I wanted to cover today with you guys. And it's super important to please take inventory of them and see them as not reality, but as beliefs that inform your experience and even your relationship and whether your needs are being met or not. And as you slowly question them and dismantle them, their power over you will wane, and you will start perceiving and experiencing yourself and your relationships in a much healthier and balanced manner. Do give this video a like if you found it helpful. Share it with a friend that you think might benefit. And if you find yourself locked in a pattern of self-defeating beliefs, maybe even in an anxious avoidant relationship, then be sure to check out my wife's video next, where she talks about fixing one mistake in our relationship that really transformed it and took it to the next level. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.